Well, guess what we're going to be talking about for the next few weeks? Feelings. Yeah, we're going to start talking about our feelings a little bit. We'll talk about emotions. Sometimes that's not a topic that we deal with a lot on a Sunday. A lot of times that's going to be like a one-on-one or a small group thing, but there is a lot of emotions scattered all throughout the Bible because it's all about people. And we are emotional people. Man, here's my question this morning as we get started. How are you doing today? How are you feeling? What emotions did you bring in with you? If you're anything like me, I'll bet. Did you whistle? I'll bet you. I just got that. I'll bet you. We talked about saving that emotion for later. I'll bet you anything. You bring in more than one. Right? We bring in several emotions because we're not just feeling good. We're feeling, well, I'm feeling all right. Or I'm feeling great. Or, well, I've been better. But there's a lot of stuff going on in life that makes us feel that way. For example, for me, I'm feeling a little excited to be able to get to talk to you this morning. But then I'm also kind of a little sad because I didn't get to see my girls. They're off on the East Coast. They're off in Germany. In fact, they're all back in Germany now, so, Christmas without family, or my daughters, that was something. And then I'm thrilled about a vacation that I get to take next week. If you're not, just because I want to get you to experience a different emotion this morning called envy. Next week, next Monday through Saturday, we're off to Cancun. So, yeah, be jealous. And so I'm excited about that, but then, I'm a little apprehensive because this week my Ducks are playing. Yeah, I do. I follow some sports. Come on now. And so I'm a little apprehensive about that. I'm a little bit anxious because after we get back, I have to go back to work. And it was a really hard semester. Who knew teaching physics was going to get so difficult? So I've got a lot of emotions going on, and my guess is that you do too. And so we want to talk about that. We want to see where Jesus is. There's a lot more than just going on in my life too, right? There's a lot going on in the world. There's economic uncertainty. Some of you guys may be here and finding yourself, I have some economic uncertainty in my life, and I need Jesus to come through in a big way because I'm barely making it. Some of you, there's political division. You don't want to be a part of it, but you work in a place where you can't help it maybe, right? It just hits you, and it's all around you, and you're like, man, or maybe you're a part of it, and it just brings a lot of angst to your life. Or family dysfunction. Oh, man, we're not, should we even start to wade into that? Right, coming out of the holidays? It's just family dysfunction, any part of the holidays for you? You have any kind of feelings in it? Yeah, right? So many of us. Racial tensions, work stress, health concerns. What is the deal about getting older? For the first time in my entire life, I have a knee brace on this morning, underneath, right here. What is that? Some of you guys who've been there got to explain this to me. Because I woke up this morning, my knee hurts. And I'm like, what? I hate getting old. What's the deal with that? All this stuff comes with a lot of emotions. And so Dustin and I thought we would step into this new year with a series about emotions. Let's talk about emotions. Let's talk about the real human element of feeling things, both difficult and good. And I got to tell you, Jesus was a guy who felt, who we see emotions. If you read the red letter parts of the gospel, you will see emotions pop out all over the place. Sometimes we just look at Jesus as like especially if you see some of the old Jesus movies, as some emotionalist person who, he's got this very vanilla kind of character. I think Jesus was just like you and me when it comes to emotions. Man, highs and lows of frustrations to joy to all of it, right? In fact, somebody kind of went through and tried to record how many different emotions they saw Jesus have, and they came up with about 40. Somewhere through the Gospels that Jesus shows 40 different kinds of course, it's how big is your emotional wheel. Some of us, if it doesn't rhyme with "ad," we don't know the emotion, right? Sad, mad, glad, bad, That's about as big as our emotions go. But there's a lot more emotions out there. I don't think that I really got the whole there's more emotions than just a couple until I had daughters who were teenagers. Gee whiz. There was a lot of different emotions I learned about, like every day, right? Because every day is a new emotion. Jesus had a lot of them, man. We see him with compassion, just a lot of love for people. That's an emotion we associate with Jesus, probably the most. But we also see Jesus with a lot of grief at times, where you would see Jesus weep tears and be sad. The shortest verse in the Bible is when his buddy Lazarus dies, and it says Jesus wept. He wept because it just moved him to tears, right? For those of you who have shed tears this week, Jesus has been there, and he sees those tears, and he knows those tears. So don't think that those tears that you shed in the middle of the night, that he doesn't see them, because he does, and he knows them. Jesus would get anxious, I think, at the Garden of Gethsemane. And for those who get anxious or get worried or, here Jesus is, the Son of God, ready to go to a cross, about to be arrested. He's days away from fulfilling his purpose on earth. And he's in a garden saying, God, do we really got to go through with this plan if there's any other way? Well, he doesn't just say those words out of, he's anxious. He's feeling the pressure of what is about to happen. Man, is there some other path? Because this is going to be tough. We also see Jesus experience anger. Do you know somebody who, and that's where we're going today. Do you know anybody who has anger? Yeah, been the anger. I can think of a few people I know who are struggling with anger. Just look at most of the comments on social media. Have you been on Twitter lately? I know that's kind of an old platform, and some of you may not be there. It's nothing but an anger fest out there at times. It's just mad people looking for other mad people to get mad about anything. Social media. Or how about when you look in the mirror? Oh, well, that was too soon. There are times I've looked in the mirror and just gotten angry. And sometimes just about what I see. Sometimes just to God, because sometimes the anger isn't directed to me or a person, but sometimes we get really angry with God too. Been there? Let's not leave that out of the equation. My brother, I've talked about him before, has cerebral palsy. He's just a year younger than I. So he's dealt with it his whole life. And there have been some periods in his life where he was just so mad at God. How could you ever make me to have to experience life like this? And that's such a real question. And you can't gloss over the fact that he would get angry with God. There are things that happen in life around us, to us, that get us angry. Some of the most angriest times, I must confess, and this is another emotion, embarrassment. This is I don't know why. There's something about my past that I haven't quite figured out or reconciled with that triggers me about being late. I don't know what it is. I'm just wired. How many of you know me, like when I show up here at 7 o'clock, how many times am I late? Never, right? Hardly ever. That's just not a thing. If I have to be there, I will be there. To be late for me is to be on time is to be late. And so that is just it. And some of the times that I, to my embarrassment and my shame, have gotten the angriest at somebody is when I'm late. And there are times I regret my words and my behaviors in those moments. I don't know what it is. I think we all have our triggers. We all have our anger triggers. So how do you handle anger? What do you do? How do you handle anger? And what inside of you causes that to happen? Well, I think I found an answer. Check it out. Uh-oh. Maybe not.
You want a plate, old man? No dessert? Oh, sure. We'll eat our dinner right after you eat this. These are my kind of people. That's the one. It comes with a dragon. Baby, get off of me. Congratulations, San Francisco. You've ruined pizza. First the Hawaiians, and now you. Or straighten that curse word we know. It's a good one.
Now hold on.
Can I say that curse word now? Oh, I'll show you attitude.
No. Stay happy.
This again? You like to read minds, Meg? I got something for you to read right here.
Let's just be calm for 1 second. You're saying we run away?
Well, I wouldn't call it that. I'd call it the Happy Core Memory Development Program.
You can't be serious.
Hey, our life was perfect until Mom and Dad decided to move to San Francisco.
Triple income.
We'll make you smile.
Did I ask for the commercial?
So, how are we going to get to Minnesota from here?
Well, why don't we go down to the elephant lot and rent an elephant?
Hey, that sounds nice.
We're taking the bus, nitwit. We saw it last.
Triple income.
No!
All right. I remember the first time I saw this movie, and I thought, yeah, I got that guy inside of me who lives inside my head. And what do I have to do to keep Angry Ed from being the guy who always comes to the control panel of my heart, right? We get angry, and I don't think we actually have someone inside of us, but we really do. Now, part of today, I want to really get practical with you, and I know we don't normally talk about this, but you know what? If you have a way of taking notes today, maybe just simply on your phone, I want to suggest that we're going to go through some practical ideas that you may want to remember or record or take down today. I want to get super practical as far as what do we do when we get angry, and how do we do this in a healthy way that also reflects Jesus in our life. So I just want to throw that out there as we get going. Where does this anger come from? So at Christmas. On Christmas Day, Kim and I, near the end of the day, said, you know what, let's just do something impulsive. And we thought, well, let's go to Tahoe and go snowshoeing for a couple days. Let's go tomorrow morning early. We'll get up at 6. We'll take off. On the 26th, we'll be there. On the 27th, we'll be there. We got to get home for the band concert, right? Burke was playing that night, so we wanted to be there for that. And so we're like, let's go. So that night, on the Christmas night, she uses VRBO, right? Books a room up in Tahoe so we have a place to stay. Head up there, excuse me. Pardon me. We had a great time, went snowshoeing, got to the hotel at 4 o'clock, check-in time. Perfect, we're tired, ready to go. I decide, it's going to be fast. I'll stay in the car because we'll probably have to drive to a different building. So I'm in the car. Pretty soon, the phone starts auto-dialing in the car, in the truck. Somebody's like, hello, click, hang up. What is going on? Pretty soon it happens a couple more times. Kim's trying to dial out, but she's going through the car. Her phone's connected. So I run in there. I'm like, what is happening? And I get this. I went in to check in. Let's see if I can do this right. This isn't bad. But she's like, I went in to check in. Gave him my ID and my driver's license. And they're like, well, what's your name? She goes, Griffin, Kim. Which her nickname is Kim, K-Y-M-M. And she's like, and I gave him my license and my credit card, and they're like, no, looks like you're Kimberly. We do have a reservation for Kim Griffin, but not a Kimberly Griffin. I'm sorry, you don't have a reservation. Yeah, right? And Kim, whose legal name is Kimberly, is like, what? And they're like, you need to call VRBO and get them to change the name on the reservation to your legal name before we let you check in. Now, that's when I walk in. She's trying to dial out. So she gets them on the phone. At this point, all I see is frustration. Okay? That's the emotion in the moment. So she talks to them. She's like talking to rounds of people, lots of back on hold. Hang on, why they go talk to a supervisor? All this is going on. We're a half an hour in. And she's been on the phone with them, trying to get them to, and the lady comes up and goes, when they change the name, if you can have them email us at blank to make sure that we know that that's all done. Whatever. So and I'm just sitting here, because the last thing I need to do is play hero, right? She's got this. I've learned a thing or two. So, I don't need to jump in too quick. So she's working on it. So I'm sitting there, but I'm all like, this is crazy. This is crazy. So finally, the VRBO people call them. You see them, you hear them go back into a room, and they are having conversations to no avail. Nothing's getting worked out. Finally, the VRBO people, she's like, I just got to cancel this thing. I was like, we got options. We can go somewhere else. We can go home. It's only 4 o'clock. It's not that far. I mean, we don't have to put up with this. This is silly. She finally gets a VRBO supervisor on the phone. It's been 38 minutes. And the supervisor says, hi, my name is click dial tone. Now all I see is homicide. We've gone from frustration to daggers of I am about to kill somebody right here, right now. Blood is about to be spilled. I thought to myself, man, I got to keep her out of jail. So I decided now's a good time to jump in and see if we can resolve it. And it got resolved. But we get angry, man, over stuff. Especially when we feel like somebody has done us wrong. The whole, when I finally walked up there, they're like, well, it's the wrong name. I'm like, it's not the wrong name. It's a legal name versus a nickname. Come on, people. This is not a different person, but we feel the slight. We feel like, we get, we feel like somebody's trying to undermine us or undercut us. They betrayed us or they've acted in their own self-interest. They've been lying to us. They've criticized us. They're rude to us. The list goes on and on and on, and the more it goes, the angrier I get. How was that? Why do we get angry? Believe it or not, God made you that way. Oh, yeah, it's your fault. Thanks. God said in Genesis 1, 26 to 27, he says, then God said to himself, this triune, beautiful, amazing God, let us make human beings in our image, to be like us, not gods, but to have parts and aspects of himself in us. So he says, and so he created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, he creates them, male and female. He creates them, and part of the imago Dei, or image of God in us, is that we're emotional. Because how can he make a creation to love him unless he puts emotions in us with which to choose to love him? And if love was the only emotion that God wired you with, then how could you choose to love him over feel some other way? Does that make sense? So within us are the vast emotions that God has. Now, I will tell you, God is a perfect being and handles his emotions differently. He handles his well. I handle mine pretty sucky most of the time. But God has given us emotions so that we can connect with him in so many different ways. And that is a good thing. And that means that at times when we feel anger, we do that because God feels anger. In fact, God made us to experience anger because he experiences anger. Did you know that? There are times that God gets pissed off. He gets mad. I'm just going to say it. He gets angry. And we have to know that. I think of the time in the Old Testament. We see a lot of it in the Old Testament. We love the touchy-feely compassion Jesus. But, the Old Testament, he's a pretty mad God sometimes. Now, it's the same God. It's the same God. We just see different parts of him in the story. But Moses is gone to Egypt. Pharaoh's let the children of Israel go. They've traveled. They've crossed the Red Sea, and now they're at the foot of Mount Sinai, where Moses and God are going to hook up, and God's going to give Moses instructions for life with this new nation, the Israelites. Moses has been on the mountain for a while, and everybody has been waiting on him, and pretty soon everybody's starting to talk, and everybody's like, and this is from Exodus chapter 32, and everybody's all like, well, I don't think he's coming back. Is Moses coming? What happened to that dude? I think he fell down, bumped his head. I don't think he's coming back. You know what we should do? Let's take all of our gold jewelry, we'll put it in a big pot, we'll smelt it down, and out will pop a golden calf. That's how Aaron puts it later, right? We'll make this golden calf. That'll be our God. We'll move forward. We'll just leave Moses up on the mountain to die and to rot. So that's what happens. They make this golden tomorrow, and then they say that there's going to be this big festival. Let's pick up the story now in Exodus from the text. Exodus chapter 32, verse 9 to 14. Here's what it says in Exodus starting in verse 9. It says, then the Lord said, I have seen how stubborn and rebellious these people are. Now, Moses, leave me alone so my fierce anger can blaze against them, and I will destroy them. Then I will make you, Moses, into a great nation. We're just going to reboot, start over, Israel 3.0, and here we go. But Moses tried to pacify the Lord his God. Oh Lord, he says, why are you so angry? Why are you so ticked off with your own people who you brought out of the land of Egypt? That was you, with such great power and such great strong hand. Why let the Egyptians say, well, their God rescued them from evil intention of slaughtering them in the mountains and wiping them from the face of the earth? Turn away from your fierce anger. I love the idea that Moses is sitting there talking to God saying, you know, God, can you just ease up on the anger? Maybe you should just be so. Have you ever done that with a spouse or somebody who's coworker who's so angry and you're just trying to settle them down and kind of talk, breathe, you'll be all right, And that's what Moses is doing with God. He says, change your mind about this terrible disaster you have threatened against your people. Remember your servants Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You bound yourself with an oath to them, saying, I will make your descendants as numerous as the stars of heaven. I will give them all of this land that I have promised to your descendants, and they will possess it forever. So the Lord changed his mind about the terrible disaster he had threatened to bring onto his people. Man, he was mad. And rightfully so. How dare you take the Lord who has built a relationship with you, taken you out of Egypt, saved you from slavery, brought you to a place of freedom, brought you out of the Red Sea, spared you from the Egyptian army, and you just all turn on me in a heartbeat and don't even give a second thought to me. That makes us angry when people do that to us, doesn't it? How dare you just turn your back on me so fast? Do you not recognize all the things that I've done for you? We can get to a place where we get things and we can get angry very quickly. I think God is a God of patience in his anger. God says when he describes himself, I am slow to anger. And we just keep pushing, and people push, and we push, and we push. But sometimes we're just really fast to get to anger. I remember being in the grocery store, and it was a couple years ago, and I fiddled with something, and it dropped. Like I'm in line, the cashier's right here, person's using the card thing right there, paying, and it dropped, it bounced. And this person turned right around and said, did you throw that at me? It's like super, and I'm an idiot, and it just dropped and it fell over there. I'm really sorry. But anger was just right there, right? Anger. James says, in James 1:19-20, he says, understand this, dear brothers and sisters. You must all be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. It's an emotion, it's built in, it's there. But get there slowly. Be considered. Human anger, verse 20, does not produce the righteousness God desires. So get rid of all the filth and evil of your lives and humbly accept the words your God has planted in your hearts, for it has power to save your souls. I know that with our situation in Tahoe a couple nights ago, if I had gotten angry because my sweetie was angry, I would have had no emotional wherewithal to have a conversation with them to get what we needed. I know it's because I was slow to anger. Not that there was anything bad. You had spent 38 minutes on the phone. You were justified. But I knew if I had gotten angry, I couldn't have dealt with them and said, hey, we got to work this out. It doesn't serve us well sometimes, our anger. But we get anger. And so we have to know how to handle anger in the right way, and that's the point. How do we handle anger rightly? What do we do with this thing? Because in our sin and our brokenness, like me being late, we really, really hurt people. Have you ever hurt somebody in your anger? Right? You say words you wish you could take back later. You do things, right? There's holes in doors and walls and parts of homes and all sorts of places. There are all sorts of things that happen, right? One time I was so angry, I messed up a part of my SUV because I wasn't paying attention as I was turning out of my garage, just smack it. But I'm just going to drive out of there anyway. We get there. And so let's talk about dealing with anger. That's where I want to spend the rest of our time. And here we're going to get real practical. The first thing I want you to remember, and some of you really know this, is that number one, anger is not a sin. Anger is not a sin. Anger is a part of us, part of our emotional package that God has wired us with that actually can be very helpful to us. There are times where I should get angry over something, some injustice in the world, something that the devil has done in your life, and I need to get mad about it. And I should feel deeply about that. So anger is a real thing, and anger is sometimes helpful, but anger often leads to sin, but it's not a sin. It just often leads to sin. And that's what we have to be careful of. Where's that line with me? When do I go from anger is a helpful thing, is motivating me in a righteous way, to anger is now, I've crossed some sort of barrier where now I'm acting, hurting people and hurting others. There's a line there. Paul instructed his church in Ephesus in Ephesians chapter 4, 26 to 27. He actually says these words because I think in the Ephesus church they were having a bunch of problems. He's written this letter to solve some stuff, and a part of it is being angry with each other. And so he writes these words. He goes, look, guys, in your anger, do not sin. Just be careful. Do not, and if you do, don't let the day end. Don't let the sun go down while you're still angry. And do not give then the devil a foothold. So he's like, deal with it soon and deal with it quickly. Know how you feel. Be in touch with your emotions and your anger. And then don't go so far as to give the devil access. If you ever watch or talk to rock climbers, it's not the handholds that helps them climb the rock face, it's the toe holds. It's getting a good toe hold. Your foot on a good place where you can push with your legs. You can push up with your legs on the rock face better than you can pull up with your arms. Okay, that's just a part of the leverage. More of it is having a foothold or a toe hold so that if I get my toe in there, I can push with my legs and get going and get up to where I want to go. And that's what Paul is likening. He's like, don't give the devil that kind of a toe hold where he can push himself up into your life. Because those toe holds can get you places. Don't give the enemy space. Don't give him room in a marriage, with a friendship, at work with coworkers, because it can damage your witness. Once that toehold is there, once the devil starts to destroy, because right, we have an enemy, John 10:10, who has come to steal and kill and destroy. Once he gets a toehold, that can happen. So we don't want to give him. So Paul's like, put it to bed early. Don't let it linger. Don't let it linger. Because number 3, unresolved anger will fester into worse emotions. See, this is where things start to break down. Unresolved anger that we don't deal with well, begins to become bitterness, becomes resentment, and even works its way into hatred. You don't go all the way to hatred from 0 to 60. We go there slowly. We let this thing fester, right? Have you ever? And it just gets inside of us, and it just works its way into us. And pretty soon it's just like, I just keep thinking about it, and that person, and pretty soon it's like, I just don't want to talk to them anymore. I don't want to see them. Their face makes me sick. I can't believe, and we just begin to go there. And so when we get to these places of resentment and hatred, unresolved anger has started wars. That's just where we are. When we let it go, it destroys relationships. It tears down. John 10:10 didn't come out of anywhere. He says, when he says the enemy is there to steal and kill and destroy, it's not just supernaturally, it's the supernatural working through us and our unresolved stuff. How does stuff get destroyed? How do we start wars? We don't resolve the anger, and then it turns into something more. And then it turns into more, and now the war is on. So we need to deal with our anger, and we need to do it soon, and we need to do it quickly. We think that this way because we believe that the injustices have happened, and we are justified in our feelings. It's interesting to me, the juxtaposition of that, where I feel like I can be angry. I feel justified in being angry at this person, at this situation, because they've acted unjustly. And their injustice justifies me. But it doesn't justify my sin. It only justifies my feelings. We like to think that all of our anger is righteous anger, that we have a right to feel that way, but really, it's really, really, really rare, I think, that we have righteous anger at a real injustice in the world. just watched, because while we're in Cancun, my students are going to be watching movies all week. Good for them. And I just put together a Hidden Figures, if you remember that from years ago, for my physics class. It'll be great for them. But I just rewatched it to prep it for them, and I'm like, there were times where I was like, man, when she has to run to the bathroom a mile away because there's no bathrooms for her in that building, I'm like, I could feel myself like, oof. And when Kevin Costner and his character rips down the signs or whatever, I'm like, yes! It feels so good. That's justified. That's righteous anger. That's what it's there for. So, what do? Let's deal with our anger, okay? It's not a sin, but it leads to sin. We deal with it quickly. How do we do that? Well, there's unhealthy ways. We're not going to spend a lot of time there. The two unhealthy ways, number one is lashing out, right? Physically, emotionally. I never touched my siblings. I've got 4 younger siblings. Never touched them, never laid a hand on them as an older brother. My mom would have skinned me up alive. But I think I did more damage with my words. I was really good at hurting with my words. In fact, in college, I remember taking long walks at the nighttime with Jesus because I was headed to law. I was doing law classes, business law and constitutional law. I was headed to law school. My advisor was on the Supreme Court for the state of Oregon. That's the direction I was going. And I remember Jesus finally getting into my heart and saying, you'll make a great lawyer because you know how to use your words. But you're going to make a horrible person because you're going to take that very thing and hurt a lot of people because you know how to hurt people with your words. And you'll win. You'll win every argument you have. And you're going to create a wave of destruction because you do. I'd rather you use your words for Jesus than to hurt. And so I went a different direction with my life. But that we can really lash out. The other one is to hold it in. Oh, I feel good at the moment. I feel really great. I feel like I didn't lash out, so I didn't hurt you. Until everything that's inside finally boils over, Mount Vesuvius erupts. And man, you do not want to be around somebody when all of the stuff that they have stuffed and the emotions and the anger they have stuffed and they have stuffed and they have stuffed and they have stuffed finally releases. Katie, bar the door. I would not want to be around when that happens. Because when it comes out, it's going to be twice as bad, twice as hot, twice as furious than it ever has been. Oh, it makes me feel good at the time. And then I could just, I've been just stuffing it all in. There's got to be a better way than just lashing or stuffing, right? Than keeping it in, holding it in, or lashing it out. And that's, I think, where we want to go with dealing with anger in a healthy way. Don't lash out. We don't hold it in. Instead, we let it go. We let it go. And that means forgiveness. Okay. Just hang on to that. We'll give it some room to breathe right there. Like Dustin would say, forgiveness. All right. I know. I said it. It's on the table. And you've not run out the door. Okay? Because for some of us who are angry, I know what this sounds like. This word. Yeah, whatever. But it's essential. Ephesians 4. Back to the church in Ephesus that Paul's been talking to, and he says in Ephesians 4:31-32, he says, get rid of all bitterness. It's not serving you well. Get rid of rage. Get rid of anger. Get rid of those harsh words. Get rid of the times where you're slandering and tearing people down, as well as all types of evil behavior. And instead, be kind to each other and tenderhearted, forgiving one another just as God, through Christ, has forgiven you. There it is. Now Jesus is going to make it simple. You mean I have to forgive because I've been forgiven? And Paul and Jesus would go, yeah, that's the deal. But I don't think you understand. I appreciate that, but I don't think you get how angry I am. I don't think you know what they did to me. I don't think you get the situation clearly. I'm pretty hot about this. They shouldn't have done that. This isn't right. Yeah, all that may be true. And God's saying forgiveness is still the way. But there's a lot that we can do before we have to hit the forgiveness milestone. And this is where I want to really go with you. Because sometimes going straight to forgiveness and being able to let them go and saying, I'm going to release you from the penalty of whatever you did to me that so makes me so mad, or the thing, that constant thing that you always do to me that I feel is such an affront and is so rude or is so wrong or is so unhelpful or is so unhealthy, before I can just like let that go and erase all the debt that I think you owe out of that. I think there's some things that we can do because forgiveness, guys, is a process. You cannot just turn it on and off like a light switch. I just can't go over there. Okay, hey, we're all good. Yeah, in fact, if I did that, you would think I was a freak. You would think that I didn't even get it if I didn't have to go through some sort of a process that moved me towards, hey, let's talk about how to make this different. Let's talk about how to deal with this anger, much less reconcile. And let's just bring that word up too. Reconciliation is not forgiveness. Reconciliation means you and I will put a relationship together down the road. It may not be the same, but down the road we will have a relationship. But until we get forgiveness moving, we can't go there yet. Forgiveness is essential for reconciliation. So what we're going to do is just take reconciliation and put it on pause. Boom. That's another sermon for another day. All we're going to talk about is how do I get to the forgiveness piece? What do I do? For the next few moments, that's all I want to get to is that. And here's what I want you to work on. Here we're going to get to the most practical part of this at all. And the first thing that I need to move my way towards forgiveness is to figure out how to have empathy. All right? I need empathy. Empathy is not sympathy. Sympathy says, oh, I feel so bad for you. Empathy says, no, I get it. I get what's happening. So let's go back to my story with the ladies at Tahoe. This gal who Kim had interacted with is a younger gal, and she's been given a job by a boss. And this is what you do, and this is what you say. And so she's following her rules. Now, her rules aren't, they're silly. But she didn't make them up. This young gal did not deserve a berating by me or a tongue lashing by Kim. Neither of us did that, by the way. We both handled this well, I think. We don't always, but this one we were all right. But the first thing, before I could even talk to them, I had to have some empathy and go, you know, I've been there. I've been that employee who's been told this is what you are supposed to do, and I've encountered people who hate that action. I know what it's like to not be able to do something or feel stuck in some place and have somebody come up and get mad at me for something that it's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to tell you here. This is all I know. That's empathy. I can put myself in your place and go, okay, I get it. I still don't like it. I still think there's a better way, but I can have some empathy with you, even if I don't like the way you've done it. I can have empathy. And empathy is especially necessary. You see, I've been a jerk a time or two in my life. We're cutting that out, right? I've been a jerk a time or two. I'm a person who can hurt people too, especially when I'm hurt. I have done things to cause other people to be angry. I know what it is. When I was working in the engineering firm, I had to go, man, you got to be careful what you do with people in workplaces, right? Like I would give people work space assignments. I am not going to give you a window assignment if I think it's going to have to go away. You know how angry people get when you sit them by a window and then all of a sudden, no, you have to have some interior cubicle in here and I have to remove you so somebody else gets the window seat? Yeah, you might not think that's a big deal, but I'm telling you, that's a big deal to people. This one time I had to take a chair. I had to swap this guy chairs. It wasn't my decision. I was the dude who had to just do it. He was so angry. He was spitting mad angry at me. That's how angry he was. I've been there. I can have some empathy for somebody who gets mad. But without empathy, I can't identify with you. And until I do, we can't have a conversation about forgiveness. I got to have some empathy. So, way number one, if like we're building a vehicle to forgiveness, let's put empathy as the tires. It's going to roll it along. It's going to help me move. Number two, I got to have some humility. Many times in my anger, something has hit a pride button in me. And it's set me off. And I may feel the injustice of it. But sometimes I have to go, God's made me to be a human, to live and interact with other humans. And I have to trust Him. God has made me a person to experience anger. But his love in me can help me walk through my feelings in a healthier way than lashing out or holding in. So, Jesus, I want to be humble here. And so, while I might feel justified, and you know what? I might actually be justified. I'm going to find a different path where, Jesus, you are glorified. And your light is seen in my life. And that's a humble place to have to walk. That's the place where Martin Luther King Jr. would walk, or Gandhi, or others who have been known, for Mother Teresa, times of great peacemakers, have found a way to walk with some humility and not have to rush out and lash out and hurt people in anger. So empathy and humility, building this thing that moves me towards a way of forgiveness. Something else from Jesus that I have to have, and that is mercy. And I think that's what Moses was appealing to God, was have mercy, have mercy, have mercy. What is mercy? Mercy says, I'm going to withhold from you the punishment I think you rightfully deserve. That tongue lashing that you need to get. That you were so wrong when you did that, and you need to know how you made me feel. To withhold that, the rightful punishment, the rightful response that I should give you. Mercy says, but I'll withhold anyway. Oh, it doesn't mean you don't deserve it. You probably do. But I won't go there. Mercy says, I'll withhold. So next time we're late, and I don't say anything, but I give you that look. Well, you know what I mean, but you know what I mean? That look of like, I'm really trying to control myself here, but I'm still angry, and I still want you to know, because I'm going to do it through my eyes. Mercy says, yeah, I know we're late. And I know I deserve to have you, whatever, but we're not gonna go there. It's gonna be okay. And then on the heels of mercy is grace. And grace says, I'm gonna give you something good you don't deserve. And that steps us towards forgiveness. Because many people that we need to forgive, that we're angry with, they don't deserve grace. I don't deserve grace from God. I'm a sinner. I screw it up all the time, but God says, I love you so much. I'm going to send Jesus to be the one who takes your place. I'm going to withhold that punishment, the thing that you deserve. Mercy is one of God's greatest values. And then I'm going to give you my love that you don't deserve so that you and I can have a reconciled life together. And he does it all. His mercy, his grace. And all I could do is yes, okay. Yes and amen and okay in my life. I want it. And when we do that with each other, we're doing Jesus with others. Yes, in my anger, I want to lash out. And yes, I want to withhold. And yes, I want to make you feel it. But then I also, what Jesus calls me to is to be like him in the world. Oh, Jesus. So I need more of your love to do this, because it's so hard to do when I'm so angry, is to be merciful and then to be gracious. So you know what? Yeah, we may be having a difficult time, but I'm going to treat you as though you're the most special person in the room. Even though you hurt me so very, very deeply. And that's grace. Not because I'm trying to be somebody, but in humility, I want Jesus to be seen. Because I think that kind of a response to anger, going and moving in mercy and grace and humility and empathy, is the thing that people will see that is Jesus in me, that will actually begin to pull them towards him. Because that's not what most people do. And most people are going to look at us then who act in the ways of Jesus and go, what is the deal with them? Oh no, man, if it were up to me, I'd be all over you and you'd feel it. But because of Jesus and his love for me, I'm going to try to be Jesus to the world around me. Anger. What do I do with that? It gets real practical. Band, if you'd come. Empathy, humility, grace, mercy. It's interesting, and I can be super funny talking about anger and exposing all my foibles and anger issues to you. But when it comes to saying, Jesus, what do we now do? How do we get down to it? And Jesus calls us to be like him. Well, now we got a choice to make. And now it gets difficult. I was just helping you. Forgiveness is hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. That's why I gave you the way towards forgiveness, empathy and humility and grace and mercy. Because we need help getting there. Forgiveness is tough, but it's essential. Colossians 2:13-15. Paul writes these words to this church. He says, "For he, God, forgave all our sins. He," and this is forgiveness, "canceled the record of the charges against us and took it away by nailing it to the cross." And as I move my vehicle towards forgiveness, instead of being angry, I can cancel the debt. That's forgiveness. By nailing it to the cross that Jesus came to take and to bear. The very thing that we celebrated with communion. There have been times when I've been angry enough about some stuff, especially with the daughters, right? Sometimes with kids, we go there. That I've had to get away and spend time in like a retreat just to walk up to a mountainside and write these things down and bury them in a hole on a cross on a hill, literally. Just so I could in my heart walk and step through this stuff. So believe me when I tell you, I know I'm not talking about something that's super easily walked through. But I'm also going to tell you that I would not have the relationship with my girls today, with all of the stuff that's been going on in my life, if I hadn't done that with them about other things and worked out a way to get right. Not every relationship is going to reconcile and into the way that it was before. It's just not. There have been times when I've been able to bury a hatchet and forgive with somebody, but we're not best friends no more. It's just the relationships change. But we need to be people that are about reconciliation. We are called to have ministries of reconciliation, just like Jesus does with us. And so moving towards forgiveness moves me towards that, to reconcile, and not letting that anger change the nature of the relationship from to be destructive, but constructive. Anger. In moving to verse 15, to go back to that Colossians verse, he says, then follows that with verse 15, he says, in this way, having forgiven, nailing it to the cross, he disarms the spiritual rulers and authorities. He publicly shames them. Publicly by his victory over them on the cross. You see, Paul reminds us in Ephesians, the battle isn't against flesh and blood. So much of our anger is people-oriented. Paul says it's not about them. There's a spiritual battle going on for the heart and soul of every person. And the devil wants nothing more than to create a foothold in my life, to use the anger of my life to kill and steal and destroy, instead of build up and love and reconcile and show Jesus to people. Man, if you need to be angry at the devil. Be angry at the devil. Be angry at destruction. Be angry at the pain that people have to go through. Be angry at injustice that pits one person against another. Be angry that we can't get over being angry. The devil is wanting to destroy life, but our goal is to unify. See, our goal isn't just to be right and justified. My goal is to be loving in Jesus. My goal isn't ever to feel like I get the right to have be hurt and offended. My goal is to be Jesus and light to the world. And say, God, forgive them, for they don't know what they're actually doing. A very divided world needs a unifying church. Because the church, I'm telling you, only in the church are we going to find people who want to operate like Jesus with empathy and compassion and love and mercy and grace. To turn anger into something beautiful that builds relationships instead, because we want to deal with it in healthy ways. They're not going to find that anywhere else. And you want to talk about a light on a hill that's going to shine Jesus around us? It's handling anger well. That's going to do it. Because people want that. People need that. That's why people flocked to Jesus in droves. The sinner, Mark called it the scum of the earth, They flocked to him because they could feel the grace and mercy given to them, the acceptance that they had. The only people that Jesus got mad at, Pharisees. The big shots, the one who thought they had all the answers and were really just a bunch of hypocrites. He never got angry at the hurting and the lost. Even when they would offend, Jesus would only be angry with the idiots, the hypocritic ones who could not humble themselves enough to go, yeah, I'm a screw-up too, and I need forgiveness. We want to be characterized by love and not anger. So before I pray, I'll leave you with these words. Let's be people known for love and not anger, empathy and not judgment, humility, not self-centeredness, mercy and not condemnation, and grace and not distancing. Let me pray. Jesus, even preaching this message, I'm sure there are things in my heart that I still need to move towards forgiveness in my own heart. I don't preach this as some pure guy who's got it all together. So I pray this prayer for me. Help me. First of all, Jesus, I accept your grace and mercy and your forgiveness in my life. Because I want to be a follower of you, even in the way that I deal with an emotion that could take me into all sorts of really unhealthy places. So Jesus, do your work in your way with me. And so now I pray for us. And may there others be here that maybe need to say the same prayer or something like it. Because there's none of us that, nobody here is immune from sin. And I pray that today and in 2025, we begin to deal with this emotion of anger and turn it from being something that can destroy and that the enemy can get a foothold in and to destroy and work to destroy in our lives and to cause wars within us and wars between us, that Jesus, you will intervene, and that this is going to be something then that working towards forgiveness out of anger is going to be something that actually unifies and brings joy and brings blessing and brings witness to the world. And they can see a unifying force in your people throughout this world instead of one that creates more disharmony. So God, do something. Fill us with your love and your spirit to overflowing amounts so that we can do the very thing that right now we may be thinking, I can't do this, and that's stepping out with even just a little empathy and a little bit of humility and a little bit of grace and mercy, so that we can walk in your ways and follow in your footsteps and live life like you showed us you live life. And God, may we change our world through simply handling our anger. And we love you. And we praise you for that. Amen. Just before I have Steve and the band come and sing, this may be something that you just need to get some quick spiritual agreement on. The prayer team is, because of the rain and weather, they're just going to stay right back here. Or Dustin's here, or I'm here. And we love to just pray with you about whatever it is. It doesn't have to be long. You don't even have to tell us the whole situation if you don't want. But just say, can you pray with me? I've got some unresolved anger issues, and I want to resolve them. So we've got people here to agree with you in prayer. You don't have to walk this journey alone. You have people of love to do it with you. We can do this together. We can do this together. Let's sing.